Example 2, I'm solving a new equation. First thing you'd want to do is look at how many variable terms you see. When there's more than one, you're not going to be able to isolate. Go back and look at your flow chart. When there's more than one, you're going to have to do something else. And so what you want to try to do, you want to try and factor. So go back and look at your flow chart. How many variable terms? Well, more than one. So we're going to go over here. Can you factor? Okay. Can you factor? And so that's what we're going to try to do. If we can factor, then that's going to be what we want. And that's going to be what we need. So you might notice that sine theta is going to be a common factor. Okay, there's going to be a common factor, and what we do when we try to factor, we always want to try and produce a zero. So I'm going to subtract sine theta over. I would have sine theta tangent theta minus sine theta equals 0. In order to solve by factoring, we need that equals 0, and that's what I've got. But what you would have to recognize is you'd have to recognize this common factor. Okay? Common factor. Think about it, if I had 4x squared minus 12x equals 0, you'd see a common factor of 4x, and you'd take that out, and that'd be x minus 3, and we could solve by factoring. It's the same concept. You just have that extra layer of trig on top of it. I'm going to write that down. We've got sine theta in common. And so if I knock out that sine theta, if I divide out that sine theta, I would have tangent theta minus 1. 1 equals 0. That's what makes this go. There's something called the zero product property that says that if you've got two things that multiply together to make 0, that one or the other is going to have to be 0. And so that's what we use here. We split this up and either sine theta equals 0 or tangent theta minus 1 equals 0. At this point, you might notice that what we've done is we've transformed an equation with more than one variable part down into a couple of equations with just one variable term. And we should be able to isolate either one of those two pieces. Let's do tangent theta minus 1 first. I think it's a little bit easier. I would try to isolate the variable, so I'm going to add 1. I've got tangent theta equals 1. If you're going to use a calculator, you're doing an inverse tangent. Okay, inverse tangent of both sides, inverse tangent of 1, that's going to give you the reference angle. But I'd rather you use the chart on this. We should recognize that that 1 is going to come from a chart. Tangent is sine over cosine. So we look at where we're going to get 1 there. So square root of 2 over 2 divided by itself is 1. And we can see that we're looking at a 45-degree reference angle. Okay, that has something to do with 45 degrees, but you would notice that it's 45 degrees where tangent is positive. Because that 1 is a positive number, we're looking at 45 degrees where tangent is positive. So think about that. And you know, all students take calculus. Tangent is positive in the first and the third. You need to know that. So we're looking at a 45-degree reference in the first and the third. Well, first quadrant, it just is what it is. You've got 45 degrees. That third quadrant is 45 degrees past 180. Add them together, that's 225. So we've got two answers there. We have two answers there, 45 degrees and 225. Now let's go back and do sine theta equals 0. You look at your chart, and you can tell pretty quickly that it's going to be a 0-degree reference angle. But I think that's hard for students because they don't know about being positive or negative. There is no positive 0 or negative 0. A lot of the times they'll miss the second answer on this one. Okay. Whenever I get a 0 or a 1, I think it's probably most useful to look at the circle. That's what we're doing on all of these problems. It's just most obvious when I've got my quadrantal angles where I'm looking at 1s and 0s. We know those 4 points on the unit circle. And so if you think about what sine theta equals 0 means, sine theta is talking about the y-coordinate. And so I'm talking about where is the y-coordinate equal 0. And so we see that obviously it's at 0 degrees, but the y-coordinate is 0 at 180 as well. And so we have two answers here for a 0-degree reference angle. A 0-degree reference angle would give me 0 and 180. So we actually have 4 answers here. 0, 180, 45, and 225. You can put them in numerical order if you want to, increasing order if you want to, or you can just list them all out. That would be your 4 angles. And so think about what a solution is. A solution is a number that results in a true statement if you plug it in. That's what we've got. You plug any one of these numbers in to this equation, you're going to get a true statement. Down at the bottom, it gives you this caution, and I've seen this a lot of times. Students will try to look at this equation, and they'll say, well, sine theta on both sides, I can just cancel that out. And if they cancel that out, it's kind of tricky, but it would end up giving them tangent theta equals 1, and they solve that, and they end up getting their 45 and their 225. They end up getting those 2 answers, and those 2 answers are right, but this caution is telling you don't do that. If you try to cancel out, one of the variables, the problem is you're going to cancel out some of your answers. Okay, so we don't want to do that. We don't want to cancel out variables because we don't want to cancel out answers. Okay, you guys understand that? Good.